Welcome to the fifth episode of Zabani. This is a podcast event brought to you by the Statesmanship Program. We at Zabani plan to bring to you a-conventional topics in an atypical manner. This week, we talk about the education system, the challenges that it faces, and the reforms that can be brought around in the same. This week, we have with us Mr. Sahil Nahar. Mr. Sahil Nahar is the co-founder of Fortitude, an NGO based out of Pune, which aims to do one good deed every month. This is a student-run organization, and who better than students can talk about the education system itself. We're extremely grateful to have you here with us, Mr. Nahar. Um, Beginning with the discussion, will so basically the government introduced the new education policy 2020, and it's a far-ranging policy which talks about various aspects of schooling and colleges as well. So, what are your opinions on the same, and how do project this plans out?
Okay, the new education policy, it's a policy as of now, it's just a framework. And it's pretty exciting. The way they have come up with it, the plans that they have come up with is pretty exciting and interesting, but it's still to be seen how they're going to implement it. But as far as there are a few very important key takeaways from the policy, which I personally like, and something I wish that if I were in school, I would have enjoyed this a lot more. So it's a good plan. It's a wonderful plan that the government has come up with. And one of the most important things that I see in this is it is not a one size fits all kind of a policy. So the education system that we had till now was, okay, this is a general curriculum, everyone must follow it. But now it's much more flexible, it's much more personal, which is going to help the students a lot. And it begins all the way from grassroots level. So now the new education policy defines Anganwadi, or the lower kindergarten education, as formal education. So students are involved in the system all the way from the age of 3, which is going to be wonderful, which is being done in a lot of countries already. It wasn't happening in India, and this is going to help. Now, the other important thing that they have come up with is the experiential learning aspect of it. So it's going to be more hands-on, more interesting, more involving as compared to what we would do only with books. And it's going to remove the rote learning culture that we have had all along. It's not only about marks anymore, where you have to learn and you have to make sure what you have mugged up has to come out on the paper, but it's more about understanding what you're trying to do in school. And if you see, they have also made the exams more student centric and more learning centric rather than mark centric. So it's going to be an all round evaluation with things like self review and peer review, which is going to teach you skills which are future ready. Like, a lot of skills that the industry needs are not what you get from school today. So this policy is going to go towards that. Then the other important thing that I feel is the importance given to vocational courses. So courses like carpentry, maybe electric work, uh, plumbing, all these things which are not considered mainstream jobs in our country, but are very important skills for one to have. So it's putting some focus on vocational learning, and it's also given what you impetus to internship based education. So it has a provision for about 10 days a year to go backless to school and understand all these things, do vocational things, which is again a very fun thing. I would have loved to have carpentry as a subject in my school. So this is wonderful. Then when we go to higher classes, so till date what we always had was, after class 10 you have to choose math, science or commerce. Like, you had 3 options, you have to fit in one. But with the new education policy coming in, once it comes in, it will be a mix. So a person who wants to do maybe science but also wants to learn geography or maybe psychology can take up those subjects, because it's not going to be a stream anymore. It's just going to be education. So this is one fun aspect of it. The same thing has been done in college degrees as well. So it's a very flexible course where you can start whenever you want, you can leave whenever you want. and you get recognition for whatever you have done till date. So you can leave in 1 year, 2 years, or maybe, and you will have that much very important as compared to what we have currently. So this is one more important, this is one wonderful aspect of it. Then there is there is a good use of technology. Like they have laid importance, they have given importance to using technology as an educational tool, which I think is wonderful, because even though we all say we use technology today, we don't know how to actually make the most of it. We know how to use our phones, we know how to play games, but we don't know how to use it to our we are not very aware. I won't say we don't know, but we are not very aware of how to use it to our advantage. So if we start getting a hands-on technology at an earlier age, at a very young age, it's going to be helpful. They have introduced coding from class 6 itself. So if everyone knows the basics of coding, it's going to be wonderful. When you go in front of a computer, or when you are sitting for a job, you do understand what's happening behind the scenes. So if I were to summarize, all in all, it's a very progressive thing. It's a wonderful thing, and I would have loved it to have come a little sooner. But uh, one thing that I can say is, if implemented well, if implemented the way they have laid out the vision, this is going to take the country ahead. This is going to take the entire educational system ahead. Because apart from the points that I've mentioned, the government has also laid down some goals. Like they want to increase the GER, the gross enrollment rate in schools, and they want to reduce the dropout ratio, which is wonderful. And if everyone completes education, even let's say up to class 12, they will be ready to do a lot of other things apart from the labor work that they can do. So this is wonderful. Like this is an important step, and if done well, it's going to be wonderful for our country.
I completely agree that, even I would have wanted to be introduced a little earlier, so that when I was in school. Uh, when we're on the topic of reforms itself, I think one of the reforms which was imposed upon us without our will was the pandemic, and the way it completely changed the landscape with respect to education as well. And now with the coronavirus pandemic forcing education systems to go online, there is pretty much no choice. So right, there is a unique set of challenges that both educators and students face in online learning systems. So, how do you envision that these challenges that are being posed by an online system be tackled in a comprehensive manner?
So that's quite true. That this is one of the most important problems that the education system is facing today. I myself had to, like, even though I've just finished my education, the last 2 months of my college happened online. So I can say that we are still way behind in coping up with what's happening, or in terms of the educators and in terms of students as well. So if you ask me, I personally love being in school, being around my friends, being around my peers. It's a different kind of education, because school is not only for learning, or college is not only for learning. It's about your overall growth, where you are sitting with someone else and you're listening to someone. You do a lot of things, but as we have the pandemic going on, we have to adapt. Like adaptability is the most important thing. So going online is the way of the future. And sure, like if you, not everyone is from a technology background, and when you suddenly ask someone to, okay, go on Zoom and take a lecture, it's going to be difficult. There are a lot of teachers who have experience of 35, 40 years in teaching school students. Like they are amazing mathematics or science teachers, but they didn't have PPTs to teach. They would make their notes and they would come and teach on the blackboard. So when you suddenly force a teacher to go online and maybe say, okay, now take a Zoom lecture, it's difficult for them. They have to figure out a lot of things, like there is screen sharing, there is audio sharing, making the PPT in itself. And then of course in the initial stages, even there was a lot of online bullying. Like random people would come and trouble teachers, they would interrupt lectures. This 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 was a big problem, which a lot of teachers have now started to cope up with. They have now understood. It's been almost 8 months, so they have now understood how to go about it and how to deal with these things. But it was initially very difficult. Like not everyone has a stable internet connection even today. So everyone is like a teacher is expected to have a stable internet connection, but that is not the reality today. There were a few funny images where a teacher is sitting on top of a tree just to take a lecture. So they have adapted. The teachers have done their best to adapt, and so the students, so should the students. Like, I can completely understand it is difficult to sit in front of a screen for 2 hours and listen to a lecture. Couldn't sit in a classroom and listen to a lecture. I don't expect anyone to be able to do that so easily in front of a screen. But going by the certain situations, we have to make the most of it. We as students have to cope up with the entire scenario, and there are a few ways to do it. Like in school was the discipline, that's about but about the overall discipline, being around people. So if we inculcate the similar discipline in ourselves, even when we are sitting in front of a screen, even we are basically in an online school, by logging in on time, by leaving on time, by completing our assignments, uh, this is going to be helpful. Like, this is going to be one of the more effective ways to cope, because you will still feel that you are there, you are available, you are present in the scenario by being on time. I have also heard that a few schools made it compulsory for students to wear the uniform when they're sitting for the lectures. So
Yeah, it's a
for
little
wearing a
odd,
shirt and
but yeah.
maybe shorts under it, but they did, like, to give the feel of an online inclusive. Schools have done that. Then they should proactively get involved in the entire process. Like, they should discuss, they should come up with questions. And one other thing when it comes to technology today is the ample amount of distractions that we have. So if we remove all these distractions around us, or if we set, okay, for the next 2 hours maybe I'm not going to touch my phone, or I'm not going to play YouTube on a second tab, this way it will definitely help them to cope up with the entire thing. And understand something, because the schools being getting knowledge from a teacher is the important thing over here. And if we are present there and if we are available, this is going to be definitely helpful.
Does make a lot of sense, like, and especially, talking about how everything's gone online and the peer-to-peer interaction wherein you're part of a physical classroom, that has not just had, challenges with respect to the learning itself, but it poses unique challenges that we have not faced with respect to mental health also, with people with online, like how you mentioned, right, bullying being a part of the initial phases, and it still continues, like, in online classrooms. So we have the unique threat of, bullying, teachers being conscious about their own privacy and security. And not just that, even with kids being trapped in houses, a lot of them might not come from how, families with proper backgrounds. They might have conflicts at home as well. So this entire, online learning situation at this moment, and even when it is offline, mental health has been one of those things which has been ignored in our schooling structure from the initial phases itself. So, how do you propose that, we go about and make the education system more student and educator friendly when it comes to mental health?
Right. So this is a very relevant thing, and it is high time that we considered mental health as an important aspect and not a taboo anymore. Like, our society should evolve to consider mental health issues to be something real, something that exists. And it's a strange statistics, but more than 15 million people in our country itself are facing mental issues, but they're not talking about it. They do Probably they don't even know they are facing something like this. And if we start doing this from the grassroots level, like if we start making this a topic of conversation, a part of our curriculum, all the way from the school level, this is going to be a very important this is going to be an important step to move ahead. Because a lot of young kids, basically, if we talk about school students, a majority of these students are facing depression, they have anxiety, they have a lot of stress trying to cope up with the academics, the co-curriculars, their peers, their families. There are family situations at times. So it's a difficult situation, and we hear stories about young kids being suicidal, trying to just because they couldn't get enough marks, or maybe they got a wrong result. So these things are very sensitive, and it should be inculcated, like if this begins at the school level, if this is inculcated in the curriculum itself, it's going to be helpful. Like helping kids, when we say we want, when I say that it's included in the curriculum, what I mean is making this a part of topic, making this a part of conversation, teaching skills, like teaching them coping mechanism and skills, like meditation or other things that are going to help them come out of situations. Because things like bullying happen very often in schools, and if a student goes under the pressure, then they're going to face depression, they're going to face anxiety, and it's going to be very stressful, it's going to be harmful to them. One other important thing that needs to be included at a very young age is the gender sensitivity aspect and the part of consent. Like if we start doing it at a younger age, it's going to help the society evolve in totality. So these topics can also be included in our curriculum, in our uh, teaching learning plans. So also, when we say awareness, even a lot of teachers are not aware about this. Like they do come, but they are not equipped with skills to identify someone who has an emotional problem or a mental problem, and to deal with the situation. They might just rule them away. So something in terms of teachers would be that they go through these programs. There are a lot of programs available for teachers, a lot of schools are doing them. So if they go through these programs to identify these problems, to identify these students and make a different effort towards them, it's going to help them in general. Then with the advent of technology, there are tests and there are methods to gauge someone's emotional quotient. So using this, students can also be made more aware about topics like emotional intelligence and how to go about it. This is going to be helpful. Then aggression is something that happens very often in students or in school students, young students. Like uh, it's easy to get enraged, but teaching coping mechanisms or talking about them is is going to be helpful. Because one thing that I have personally noticed in my school was, if someone would go to a school doctor for maybe a fever or headache, it was normal. But if someone went to the school counselor, it would be a sensitive topic and everyone would discuss it in the lunch break. So this is something that we need to move out of. This is something that through regular awareness and by having small conversations, by giving it out in small steps, small amounts, will help the society at large. So I think awareness and making it a part of curriculum in small ways, like it shouldn't be seen as an additional burden or one more test or a subject, but it should be more of a regular plan, a daily teaching learning plan, where a few modules are delivered with a mental health aspect to it. This could be very helpful in schools and education in general.
Makes complete sense. I mean, I remember a line that if you want a student to understand something, don't make it a 100-mark paper. So it makes sense that, making it a separate paper itself would just increase the burden. Now, considering the situations we're working with right now, like if you look at this year's admission pattern, the Delhi University, colleges like Lady Shriram declared 100% cutoff, right? And with that being in focus, we realize that the outcome, the kids that come out of these colleges still aren't employable. Like that, even though the cutoffs are increasing, the tension of education, getting into these colleges is so difficult. We understand that even the best of the colleges in the country aren't able to create employable people at the end. So, skill development and vocational learning is something that we have seen an advent. We've seen the conversation begin in the last 5 to 10 years now, at least, but it's still a relatively new field. And, expecting the government to do all of it is extremely unreasonable as well, right? So, how can kids themselves and at small levels, like at a baseline school level, at a college level, how can skill development be taught to kids and, be nurtured as a basic human life skill?
Absolutely. So to answer this, or to talk about this, let's say, World Economic Forum very recently came up with a set of skills. They came up with a set of 10 skills which are going to be more important in the future, like ones that industry wants. I have a few of them listed down over here. And so what out of these 10, a few that they came up with was analytical thinking and innovation, critical thinking and analysis, leadership and social influence, and technology. Technology, not technology in general, but its use, its development, and its control. So when we look at this is not only the World Economic Forum, but a lot of organizations, a lot of industries are talking about having these skills, having these hard and soft skills in a student. Uh, Even today, a lot of school students are not effective communicators. Or they are still scared of. They have this stage fear, or they are just scared about communicating or talking in front of a crowd. And what usually happens in such situations is when you can't communicate, you can't convey, it's going to be misunderstood. So if we like, this is a very basic skill. Communication uh, begins at a very lower level, and then you can go towards technology. So if we start focusing on these skills, then there is, like they have mentioned, they have put focus on leadership skills, leadership and entrepreneurship. These are two skills that the entire industry is looking forward to today, because they want responsible employees. They want people who will take the charge and get their work done. And this can be inculcated in a student from the school level itself, like uh, by making all these by having all these leadership positions, by giving a responsibility to a student, and by letting them take charge of activities. This can begin from the school level. Apart from this, social being, having some social influence, being empathetic, is also something that is looked up to. And if students at the younger age itself get involved in social activities, maybe awareness, maybe something for the society, through the platform of a school, it's going to help them develop these important skills that they won't get by sitting inside a school. Now again, technology has been spoken about. Everyone is expected to know how to use a basic, maybe Microsoft Office, or set up a Zoom call. But it's even then, it's a very difficult task for a lot of people. So if we start being more aware about the current technological trends, and doing basic things like coding, or maybe looking at how software works from a basic level for everyone, it's going to help them in the industry. Because as you rightly said, like there are maybe a million engineers in our country, but hardly 2 or 5% of them are employable. It's a very vague statistic, but it is there. And this is because they are not ready. Like we go to colleges, but the current curriculum that we have, or the syllabus that we have, is not adapt to what the industry wants. Or the industry is looking for a few specific skills that not everyone has. Like they are looking for data science, artificial learning, or such skills, which is not a part of curriculum even now in our country. So if we start doing this, if we start doing basics of this at a school level, and maybe even in class 11 and 12, it's going to be helpful. uh, the new education policy, it has spoken in these terms, and it has given the ground for a general entrance exam from whenever this policy is uh, maybe implemented. So this is going to give students the availability to study all these skills, to understand more about this. They can take diplomas, because now it's become a trend. Not all of them are doing it, but the big industries, big employers, they're looking for skills, and they're not looking for degrees anymore. So having a degree is not as important as having the rightful skill that the company wants, or the employer wants. So if we start focusing on these things, if we start giving some importance to internships, like making internships as a part of a curriculum, is going to help, because then the employer doesn't have to worry about if the candidate in general is able to cope up with the office or the working situation. They know, okay, they have completed an internship and they are trained to be there, they are trained to work. This is going to help in making engineers employable, because I completely, and this is my personal opinion, but the curriculum or the syllabus that we follow today is not even close to what the industry wants. We're still far behind, and it's all the way, it's all up to students to work on themselves, to work on these skills, to keep practicing, because the let's say the entrance exams or the industry after you pass out of college once requires you to have critical thinking skills and logical skills, but there is no logical subject in your 4-year degree or maybe a 3-year degree. Students sometimes are not able to suddenly cope up for a test. So if the students themselves start preparing this, start getting involved at a regular interval, like they are always involved, they start reading up about things, they start understanding, it's going to help them become employable. There has to be an effort from their end as well, because all colleges have a soft skill learning program, they have a technical skill learning program, they have a lot of programs, but even then, even after all of this, students are not employable. So it has to come from both ways. The government is doing its job, it's up to us on if we want to be employable and if we want to do it. So I put the ball in the students' court over here when I say that even they have to take a responsibility to get themselves to do something, to maybe take up an initiative, be entrepreneurial, uh, be a doer rather than just a thinker, or maybe just a thinker. So yes.
To be really honest, like something like education policy making is something that would require a substantial amount of time for any government of any geopolitical scenario to adapt to, and it's important that kids at the same time make equivalent, of tries from their end as well. So
Absolutely.
this week in Zabani, we talked about how education system needs to be reformed with respect to the NEP and how its implementation is key, and how we will be looking upon the same at later points of time. How mental health is something that needs to be talked about, and the conversation starts at school level with inclusion in curriculum itself, and how online learning poses a unique set of challenges, and finally talking about how employability is something that students need to proactively approach and learn soft skills that the industry demands. With that, we come to an end to the fifth episode of Zabani. We're very thankful to Mr. Sahil Nahar for joining us here at Zabani for this episode. Thank you so much, sir. With that being said, please follow the Statesmanship program on Instagram, Facebook, and for more such content about multiple social themes as well. And stay tuned for the next episode of Zabani as we bring to you another unconventional topic in an atypical manner. This is Mehul Joshi, an editor at the Statesmanship program, signing off. Thank you so much.